Welcome to Reed-Robbins NLP Breakthrough Coaching Academy. In this section, I just want to talk to you about coaching with NLP and, more importantly, where does NLP sit? Many of you will have heard of coaching, training, counselling and mentoring, but how is NLP different? Because most people will understand that there are applications in all four of these areas, but where does NLP itself actually sit? So first of all, let's just make sure that we're all clear on what each of these modalities is. So coaching is all about helping somebody move from where they are now to where they want to be. And a coach won't give you the answers. They'll ask powerful questions, help you clarify your goals and make a plan. So for example, imagine you're feeling stuck in your career. You know you want something different, but you're not sure what steps to take. So a coach would help you clarify the goals, explore your options, and help keep you accountable along the way. They're not going to tell you what to do or give you advice, but they'll help you unlock your own answers and to take action. Training, on the other hand, is about teaching skills and knowledge. It's about learning how to do something or learning some new knowledge of some kind, but usually it's about skills and ability to do something. It's structured usually, often delivered in groups, more and more now digitally, and often there's a set curriculum. For example, if you've realised the reason you're stuck at work is because you lack confidence giving presentations and you're not quite sure kind of what to do with your hands and how to write a presentation, you could well go on a presentation skills training. The trainer would show you how to do it, would help you write the presentation, help you design it, help you know what to do with your hands and how to stand and so on. So they would transfer knowledge and ability. With mentoring, it's much more personal. So it's when someone with more experience guides you by sharing their knowledge and their lessons learned. So they've usually, most likely, walked the path before you and they can point out shortcuts, pitfalls and kind of signposts to get there faster. For example, if you were stepping into a leadership role for the first time, a mentor who's been a leader for years could guide you on handling tricky team dynamics or share their own mistakes, help you avoid the pitfalls and so on. It's more advice driven based on their experience. So with psychotherapy and counselling, obviously those two things are quite separate, but they are really much more about exploring the past, healing from emotional wounds. So counselling would be great, for example, if you had a really difficult time and you needed somebody to talk to and process it all and come to terms with it and figure out how you felt about it. And again, psychotherapy, very similar in that you're going very sort of deeply into your past and how perhaps what's happening now was affected by your past. And it reveals a lot about you. You know, you'll learn a hell of a lot about yourself by doing counselling and particularly psychotherapy. So it's designed to be this really safe, supportive space to process experiences and heal from them. It's very much less about focusing on the future and getting there as it is about just feeling better about where you are and where you've been. So, for example, if you were feeling stuck because of unresolved grief, trauma, or you were having strong anxiety, counselling could help you talk to somebody about what's going on. And by talking about it, you might have some realizations about where that was coming from and what it was all about. So where does NLP sit in all of those? Well, before we answer that question, I want you to do a little exercise because I think it's really important to experience this firsthand. So it's called the travel agent exercise. And you might get to do this, if you do the practitioner training, you might get to do this in practice. But for now, just take a moment, pause the recording and list all the questions that you would ask someone to help them book a holiday and be able to leave to go on that holiday next week. So write every question you can imagine. So where do you want to go? What country? What kind of hotel do you want to stay in? Every question that you would have to ask them to be able to kind of, assuming they know where they want to go. Obviously you could give them suggestions, but most likely you're just asking them questions about where they want to be. and ask all the questions that would literally be able to get them to a point where they could leave next week. Okay, so pause the recording, list those questions, and then when you're ready, go back to your list of questions and see if you can categorize them into 4 categories of questions. So I'll give you the first one for free. The first category is going to be around where they actually want to go. So what the holiday might actually look like. Okay, and see if you can get the other 3 categories. So pause the recording, see if you can work out 3 sensible categories, and then come back. All right. So hopefully you've got your categories now. Now, it doesn't matter if you didn't manage to come up with categories. Because I'm going to show you what those categories probably are. And the reason for doing this is I want to show you that you already instinctively know how to coach somebody. So whether or not you're a trained or professional coach, you already instinctively know how to coach somebody, okay? Because the chances are, is if I put somebody in front of you and said, can you help this person leave for holiday next week? You would ask them the right questions and get it done. So if you can, you know how to coach. So the first category of questions would have been goals, as in, where do you want to go? What does it look like? How long do you want to go for? What style of hotel, beach, city? You ask all the right questions to help them find the outcome of their holiday. Then there's the category of reality. So reality questions are really based around where are you currently in relation to that. So if somebody wants to go to Egypt, for example, then you probably want to know, okay, where are you flying from? Where are you in relation to that? If you did ask questions about budget, then that probably would have gone into that section of reality. So, how much money do you want to spend? Is your passport valid? Do you need a visa? What are some of the realities of where you're at currently in relation to that goal? Options is the next category. Now, options would have been, how do you want to fly? Do you want to fly first class, economy? How do you want to get? Do you want to fly? Do you want to get there by boat? All the questions around kind of how do you want to get there to the goal, to the holiday. And finally, and this is in practice, this is often the question that's missed off the most, but it wouldn't be if you were doing this for real. And that's to ask, for the credit card, for the payment, because ultimately nothing's going to happen. You can ask questions about somebody, going on holiday, and they can spend, 2 hours refining the most perfect trip. And yet, until you actually put the credit card down and pay for it and book it, nothing's going to actually happen. So the will to do it, the commitment, the taking the steps, the taking the action is a really important part of getting to where you want to be. So that's the GROW model. And I bet that you did a great job of picking out all those questions. And even if you missed a couple of questions off, you would have asked those in reality if you were an actual travel agent. So now that we understand kind of a rough idea about what coaching is, so where do you want to get to? Where are you in relation to that goal? How are we going to get there? What do we need to do? And are you ready to commit to doing it? What action steps are you going to take? How is NLP coaching different to that? So let's first of all think about the goal. So the way that NLPers work through this process is we also talk about where you want to go and what you want to do, and we talk about it in as much detail as you probably did as well. The difference is, did you set, now this, given that this was a pretend exercise, if you were doing this exercise, would you, and somebody asked you those questions, would you give them the answers of where you'd love to go, or would you give them the answers to where you could afford to go? So in reality, in practice, when people do this exercise in pairs, the person answering the question will pick a holiday they could actually afford. Now, given that this was an imaginary exercise where you were going to talk about booking a holiday, you could have booked anything. You could have literally planned your bucket list vacation. And this is where NLP differs from standard coaching, is we work through the outcomes that you want to achieve. We don't look at, what's your next logical step, regardless of whether you actually want to get there or not. We are only interested in achieving goals and outcomes that you want. And we care not about how impossible those outcomes feel. We are only interested in whether you want them or not, because it's going to take pretty much as many calories burned to get to what you do want as where you don't want to get to, right? So you may as well go for what you do want to achieve. Now, there's a couple of things, obviously, that we'll go through why you can do that with NLP that will come up in a second. But one of the big things that we can do with NLP is we can program these outcomes into your subconscious mind. So your subconscious mind actually expects them to happen. And you can imagine a little bit like kind of giving your subconscious notice that, hey, by the way, this amazing outcome's on its way. The rest of you kind of gets ready and acts as if it's going to happen, which helps you to align with that outcome. Now, there's other things that we need to do as well to align with it, but that is one of the biggest differences in NLP, is that we are not interested in what is possible and what is impossible. We're only interested in what you want, and that will be possible. We can make the impossible possible, so don't waste your time with realistic goals. Just go for what you want. The next section is reality. Now, obviously, we can ask kind of, okay, well, what's stopping you from getting there? Where are you currently in relation to that goal? What we're really interested in is, why don't you have it already? What is going on in your subconscious mind that has kind of driven you to this point and not to the point that you want to be? What are your beliefs, your expectations, your values, your behaviours? What has programmed you to get here and keep you here instead of where you want to be? So we have amazing tools, both linguistic and kind of interventions, to diagnose the root causes of those challenges, those limiting beliefs, what's keeping you sort of stuck where you are. And that's a really big difference, rather than just saying, okay, where in relation to that goal, how do you want to get there? It's, why are you here and not there? The next thing that's obviously really NLP is known for is the options for getting there. So we don't necessarily always ask the client, okay, well, if you want more confidence, how do you think you're going to get more confidence? We would ask the question, why aren't you confident already? What is stopping you from feeling confident? Where is this lack of confidence coming from? And we would then use powerful interventions to dissolve those challenges and remove those limiting beliefs. And we would also have interventions that would take confidence from some area of your life that you felt confident in, and we would borrow that confidence and place it in the area that you need it. So we have this amazing ability to kind of shift things at the subconscious level. And that is where the options really takes off. So no, we don't have to sit there in front of a client saying, how do you think you'll get more confident? What could you do to become more confident? We as the practitioner can help you to become more confident in the session. That's the point, is we will rewire your mind-body connection for confidence. Now, the other thing that's amazing about the way that NLP works is, let's say we tested commitment. So we said, okay, well, how possible do you feel that is? And it was at a 0. We would then be able to apply some techniques and then ask again, how possible does it feel now? And we would be able to help that person envisage the outcome, to program and visualize seeing that outcome happen, and give the unconscious mind this real sense that, oh, I can do that now and that's how it's going to be, that mental rehearsal. So we have so much more that we can do at the end of a coaching session to help somebody feel like, wow, I already know I'm different because I can feel different and I've tested that it's different. It's a similar way to saying to somebody, okay, imagine if you went away and nothing happened and nothing changed, what would be the reason? People can always tell you. They can always tell you the reason that nothing would change. And then you can use that information right now to prevent that from happening. So with linguistically and understanding how the mind works, we have so many more tools to be able to just leverage change and transformation. And so if we look at where NLP actually sits, it's kind of right in the middle of all of these amazing things. So when I'm working with somebody, I will absolutely kind of follow a coaching process where I'm asking them questions. Obviously, I want them to come up with the answers. However, there may be some really important things that they need to understand about how their mind works, about how the world works, about how values affect us, or how your blueprints affect us. And so some of what I do in the coaching sessions is training them, is actually, okay, let me teach you how to do this for yourself, or let's understand how this works. And so there will be some teaching and training going on. And as much as possible, I try and put that now in a digital format so that people can learn it, wherever they want to learn it. But in the session, there's always going to be things coming up where it would be really useful for you to understand that part of psychology, or for you to be able to do this technique by yourself. There's often times where somebody just wants to talk and storytell and tell me about their childhood. And while they're doing that, I am absolutely looking for patterns. I'm absolutely looking for root causes. I'm making structures in my mind as to, understanding why they are where they are and where root cause might come from. And so understanding, letting somebody talk and process something is really, really helpful for when they're ready to heal and shift and move on. And that, I think, is something that NLP is really good at, is helping somebody to talk, somebody to process, but then also reframe that experience and see it in a different light, and reframing is ultimately the cause of all the shifts that go on. Is when you see something a particular way, you'll feel how you feel about it because of the way that you're seeing it. If you can reframe something and see it differently, you'll naturally feel differently about it. So all of healing comes from being able to see something in a new light, see something you didn't see before, understand something that you didn't see before. And it's an incredibly powerful skill to have, is this ability to help somebody shift their perspective and feel more empowered around something. And of course, sometimes there's mentoring. So naturally, if I have done something that the client says they want to do or is actively doing, I'll always offer some advice if I really feel like that's something I have done, or where it comes to, for example, parenting technique, or if it's, some advice that I can give from my own personal experience, I will offer it up and give that option to the client. Now, we're really careful in NLP not to project, and because obviously everybody is unique, they're not you, it's not always the right advice. So we're very careful not to just give people advice, but obviously you can offer your advice in NLP. There's no NLP police. So if you do offer advice, as long as you understand that you're not coming from a place of superiority as you're offering it, you're just saying, oh, well, I found this really, really helpful, if that would help you. And just offering advice is absolutely fine. So NLP sits beautifully squarely in the middle of all of these modalities, and effectively it makes it super, super powerful. So in summary, in NLP we focus on what we really, really want, regardless of how impossible it feels right now. We don't worry about the how. The how is not our domain, okay? We will identify the root causes of patterns and beliefs holding you back from having that outcome, or that are creating the challenges that you're experiencing. And we overcome those subconscious blocks using powerful set of interventions and techniques, which helps you align with what you want incredibly rapidly. So I hope that you absolutely fall in love with NLP and this incredible framework that helps you not just make changes in your own life, but helps you make changes in the lives of people around you, helps you parent in a wonderfully effective way, and just is a source of constant empowerment for you, so you can be, do, have, and feel whatever you want in life.